All right, guys, John Moore here with the Texas College Football Show, doing all the Texas FBS D1 schools. And today we're going to do the preview of North Texas State, no, not North Texas, University of North Texas now. Sorry, I was just talking with my guest here, Hank Dickenson, and we were talking about some Joe Green that was an old friend of mine. Hank, hey, I appreciate you coming on. Tell everybody exactly what you do. You've been in the broadcast game a long time. You're retired now from that, but you still do play-by-play or do the part of the sports broadcast, right?
Well, I'm still doing color commentary. We've got a great play-by-play guy in Dave Barnett. So occasionally, if he has a conflict, I'll slide over. But for the most part, I give way to one of the best in the business. And I've been broadcasting North Texas since 1995. So I worked for 20 years with George Dunham, who's a dear friend and an also very talented play-by-play man. And then going on 10 years working with Dave, but retired from college athletic administration back in 20. And just real fortunate and very thankful that the university in Learfield wants me around in the radio capacity. And it's been a great marriage with North Texas. When you stumbled and said North Texas State, I remember vividly in the 90s when I got here, and even throughout the 2000s, we would go anywhere to play, and the hotel marquee would say, "Welcome, North Texas State." It was a name that just continues to stick, and probably because, in large part, Mean Joe Green was a North Texas State guy, and people still remember number 75.
Absolutely, and I'm excited to get you on here. Look, I'm a big fan of college football. I always swear my allegiance since I actually grew up a fan of the Texas Longhorns, and my youngest son is heading to University of Texas this fall. But I love all Texas college football. I've said the best football in the country is played here, whether at the college level and the high school level, which we both know, seeing that the athletes that come out of here. And I'm rooting for every Texas school and what they're doing. I'm always wanting them to do good in the conferences they're in and all of that. So I'm always pulling for them. But let's go into the University of North Texas. Everybody calls them the Mean Green. They're actually the Eagles, but they go by the Mean Green Eagles on that. And it's interesting coming up. Now, the first thing I wanted to get into with you, Hank, was talk about the coach. And I kind of did this coaching seat thing that I put out there. For those that don't know, Eric Morris is the coach there. This is his third season at University of North Texas. He's 11-14 in the first 2 years that he has been there, and he was an Incarnate Word. There's actually two guys in Texas FBS that came from Incarnate Word. The other being at UTEP, Scotty Walden was also a former Incarnate Word, but he had success at Incarnate Word before coming to North Texas. Tell me about Eric Norris and what kind of a man he is. Morris, I'm sorry.
Well, I think Eric is a really energetic and optimistic guy by nature. With that comes a little stubbornness. He knows what he wants, and he really, in his first 2 years on an offensive side of the ball, he's definitely showed everybody what he's capable of. He's a quarterback whisperer. He's always able to find really good talent. You talk about Incarnate Word. Well, that's where he met Cam Ward, and then of course he goes on to great things after Eric kind of tutored him early. He will continue to be a guy that quarterbacks want to play for, and so I'm sure we'll talk about the quarterback room. But I've been very impressed with him. I feel like he's the right guy for the right time at North Texas because things are changing so quickly and have in his 2 years. But his adaptability and that stubbornness to say, hey, we're not going to worry about challenges and the transfer portal and all that. We're going to find a way to tackle it. And I think he's really taken that to task. He gives a lot of credit to the administration, Jared Mosley, his AD, and the new president, Dr. Keller. The shifting sands are hard right now, and some coaches let that get to him, but he hasn't.
Well, and everybody sees I've got this number 11 by him. I ranked the coaches from 13 down to 1 for Texas, and I had Eric there, Eric at number 11 on my list coming into this. But people don't know this, too. He's a wide receiver at Texas Tech, so he's an offensive-minded guy. When he was coming out of college, he had the same – he was a quarterback coach for like SMU, I think some other schools. that he did that for before going to Incarnate Word. I want to ask this about Eric, and believe me when I say this, I did this thing that's coming out. It came out today, so when people see this, they will already know about it. But I called it the coach's hot seat, and this is kind of what it is. Of the 13 people, I had someone on a hot seat, whether you're on the warm seat, whether there might be some like hot seat, obviously, or you put up or else, or if you're on the warm seat, maybe there's some grumblings, and then cool and cold. I personally, I don't know. And that's why I love having someone like you on here. I had one person on the hot seat, and I thought it might be Coach Morris. Am I wrong?
I don't think he's on a hot seat. I think there's one aspect of the overall game that has to come around this year for him, and that's the defense. I think when you look at what he's done the first 2 years, you can expect, because of how they practice, how they prepare, and how they recruit, that he's going to have an offense that's going to score in the 30s.
Good.
Maybe higher some games. I think he hired an excellent special teams coach in Coach Svoboda. If you look at the special teams numbers the last couple of years, they're really, really impressive. Sometimes that's not the sexy thing to look at, but boy, it adds up in terms of wins and losses if you really care about special teams, and North Texas does. He's got a brand new defensive coordinator, and that has been the bugaboo. When you score as quickly as the Mean Green do in his offense, you've got to have a defense that can get some stops. He's going to go for it on fourth down. He's going to be aggressive. And that hasn't necessarily been that great for the defense the first 2 years. Skylar Cassidy can get that defense to where it can be serviceable or better, then I think he's definitely going to have a turnaround year. And if you look at North Texas in the first 2 years, dangerously close to really big seasons,
Yeah.
A lot of close calls. And unfortunately, it's been the defense that just hasn't been up to task. But I think this is a good year for that to turn around.
And with my prediction too, we'll go over here in a little while. I want to see it. I said this when I did my hot seat show. I said, I don't ever want to see anyone get fired. A lot of times there's circumstances that are beyond their control. In situation at the University of North Texas, that's kind of a tough place. You don't get the 5-star recruits that are going to show up at North Texas when you've got the other schools around the state, especially, and other places to go, but you can get some talent in there, and North Texas has had success. And so, and I'm pulling for Eric. I like an offensive minded guy because I was a wide receiver coming up. So I'm always going to be looking at that. So I'm glad to hear that. I love when I'm wrong on something like that. I thought he might be on the hot seat with where he was, but like you said, if the offense is scoring and you got to get the defense going, maybe the right hire's there. You said the new defensive coordinator came in this year?
Yes, and brought a bunch of really good defenders from Sam
boy.
Houston. Now, 10 or 15 years ago, I think Mean Green fans would be like, wow, okay, we're bringing a bunch of people from Sam Houston. That's not – you can't think that way anymore because the lines have gotten so blurred with all of the portal activity that programs that might have been categorized one way or the other, it's changed. It's changed in football. It's changed in college basketball. A lot of schools, if they have the right NIL and the right kind of money coming in, they can change their landscape pretty quickly. And I think when you look at what Sam Houston had done the last couple of years, excellent stop rate, really good at forcing turnovers. Those are the two things that have really been missing for the North Texas defense. If you can be +5 or better in that takeaway margin, that's a big deal, right? That means you're stealing some possessions. And if you can get some timely stops, maybe you're not going to get them all the time, but this North Texas defense has really struggled to get timely stops, stop the run, and earn the right to defend the pass.
And with an offense that's good, you don't have to be perfect on defense, but timely stops are huge because you always know with a good offense and a good offensive mind, there's a chance you can always score. But man, it really helps if you can score. And kind of like in baseball, you need a shutdown inning. Let's get a shutdown set of plays and get the ball back to our offense and maybe get a little more distance between us and our defenders. I'm pulling for North Texas. I've always liked it. I love the new stadium. I go up to Vernon, Texas is where my mother and everyone lives. So I go up through Denton and that way. And you see that. What's the new stadium called out there?
Well, when it opened, the naming rights went to a company called Apogee, and their contract ran out, and they sold Apogee. And so the university then went out and courted a local bank, Denton Area Teachers Credit Union, otherwise known as DATQ. And so it's DATQ Stadium, and it's a wonderful stadium. I was working in the department and had a hand in all of that. I don't think there were anything about that stadium that you regret now. When it opened in 2011, it's been a great place. The biggest task is trying to fill it up, trying to get 30,000 people in there, and 7 home games this year. And if you get some momentum, it'd be awesome to see that place completely full. It's had some good crowds.
All right, well, let's look at what they did last year before we get into the offense and the defense. The Mean Green are coming off a season where they went 6-7 overall. They were 3-5 in the AAC. I put some notable wins, obviously, at Wyoming, who I thought played Texas pretty good last year. Big win at Florida Atlantic, and then that loss, only 14-3 to number 20 Army, who finished number 22 in the country. That was a close game, and it looks like at least the defense did a little bit that game. But there's a lot to improve on there, and I think that's when you'll see when my come up. I think they're going to have a better season, in my personal opinion. So let's go into the offensive side of the ball. And there's one guy I want to talk about before you tell me about some other players. At quarterback, what I am seeing is they're gonna have Poffenbarger. Is that how you say that? Reese Poffenbarger?
Yeah, Reese Poffenbarger. And if you look at what he did, his numbers at the University of Albany. Now, again, you're going down a division, obviously, but he tore it up. Really big numbers. And so from a rep standpoint, he's been in the battle. Now, I was playing behind a really good player,
number 1 overall pick
at Miami, but I think, and I think the fact that Coach Morris and Cam Ward have such a great relationship, there was some inside information on this young man, and a lot of confidence in what he can do. So it's a name that we expect to be right in the middle of the August camp, but I don't think it's his job just based on name recognition. He's going to have to earn it. There's competition.
Who else is there? Tell me who else is in that quarterback room and what we could see there.
Well, signaling how good a recruiter Morris and staff are, to get the Jimerson kid out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area to have an interest shows that quarterbacks want to play for him. So a little smaller Jimerson, but kind of guy that frankly has kind of fits what has worked at North Texas, right? So he's in the mix. But Drew Mestemaker, who started the bowl game, a guy that just kind of defies a lot of the odds, always played behind people in high school, in college, always waiting for an opportunity. And in the bowl game, he blew it up. And he showed that he could stay in the pocket, take some hits. Durability has been a bit of an issue with Mean Green quarterbacks because normally the ones that settle in at North Texas might be a little smaller, might not be as big as a Power 4, Power 5 type athlete. But Drew is that. And so I think Poffenbarger and Mestemaker will be, a really good competition in August. A lot of times coaches talk about wanting competition, and it's just sort of coach speak. I think you're going to have bona fide 3 guys really battling it out. And at the end of the day, that's good for everybody.
Depth, and that's good to see depth at a position, especially one of them probably takes the job going into that first game. And unless he's won it outright, then you've got somebody. You said he played in the bowl game. What'd you say, Mestemaker?
Mestemaker.
Okay.
And, so I remember before the game, I went down, John, to talk to some coaches on the field. Bowl game, everyone's kind of a little more relaxed and you can get some good information. But I talked to Patrick Cobbs, who's the running backs coach for North Texas and one of the all-time rushers in school history. So I've been around Pat for a long time, and I asked him, how's this kid going to do today? And he said, he's not just going to be good, he's going to be great. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. He said, you just wait. You watch him, his footwork in the pocket. You watch him stay in the pocket. He's going to have a great game. And Patrick was right. The kid was ready in the moment and just kind of, I think probably will go into August saying, I told you so. So I think a little chip on the shoulder is never a bad thing. And frankly, that's the way Eric Morris walks around all the time, a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. So to have players that kind of follow suit, I think it's a good thing.
Tell me who else on the offense, who are some returning starters or impact players that we'll see besides at the quarterback? Everyone wants to know about the quarterback position. Who else do we have on that offensive? It could be a great offensive lineman we're looking at, maybe a running back or wide receiver. What else are we going to see out of North Texas, and where are some positions that you think are a strength?
Well, I think the skill positions are always going to be fun to watch. There's a lot of new wide receivers, and there's a lot of competition there. Had some players step up towards the end of the year that need to pick up where they left off. But to me, one of the keys is up front. And, Gabe Blair is a really interesting story. He has started nearly 40 games. He was injured most of last year. There was thoughts that he might try to get healthy and get in the portal. He had his first son, so he's a young father. But in the bowl game, the only game he played in last year, he had to switch over to center because we were having some problems with shotgun delivery back to Mestamaker. And not only did Gabe take over at center, he was flawless and he was getting after the other guys. He was really taking control. And he's a guy that I think is really poised to have a huge year. And he's big enough and good enough that he has a chance to play on Sunday.
Good.
I would really keep an eye on Gabe Blair. Yeah, I think he's been well coached. We've had some really good offensive line coaches, brand new one this year. But I think Gabe Blair at center could be a big part of how this team flourishes. And you talk about the propensity to try to go for it on fourth and short. Man, you got to have a guy up front that can make those things happen. So I'm excited about him
and a quarterback of that line too. And I don't care what success you have on offense. If you don't have guys in the trenches that do something, it's going to be a problem. That sounds good. Gabe Blair, that's a name I'm going to watch. Maybe an all-conference guy we can see this year. Maybe he'll take over that center position. I want to see North Texas playing for an ACC championship here or AAC championship. I want to see that for sure. So let's go into the defensive side of the ball. He said there's a new defensive coordinator. He had some Sam Houston guys come in. Who are the impact players to watch on defense?
I think the secondary has to be good. You know, everybody is trying to exploit the secondary, so your corners and your safeties have to be good. We've had some playmakers back there in recent vintage, but not enough of them. And so I feel like some of these new guys coming over from Sam Houston will be under the spotlight. Fisher at corner, I think, is a big one. Had a player, Quentin Hammonds, who came along real well towards the end of last year. You know, I feel like you got to be able to run stop, obviously, and try to earn the right to defend the pass. So this new wave of guys coming in and the switch to a four-man front with hopefully a little more size will give us a chance to make teams put the ball in the air. The only way you're going to get that +5 or better in takeaways is if you're going to get some picks, right? Harder to get fumbles. You might dislodge the ball, but you may not recover it. But a pick is a pick is a pick. And North Texas needs to get better at that. I also think it's going to be interesting. You're not going to know really how good or bad this defense is until week number 3. And that's no slight to Lamar or Western Michigan, but I don't think you're really going to see how good this team can be until you play Washington State at home. But by game number 3 and that kind of a team coming in, I think Mean Green fans will have a pretty good barometer for, is this a defense that's on the way to improve
exactly. Okay, so were there any impact transfer portal guys?
You know, you look at this team, a year ago there were 77 new players, which is crazy to me. I know Dave and I, we were like, we're going to get on the plane the first time for a road trip, and it's like we don't know anybody, right? And so it takes a while to learn the personnel. This year there's 64, which is tied for the 4th most in terms of new players. In fact, tied with Oklahoma State. So you look at what Coach Gundy's doing up there. He's got a whole new team. So I think you're going to see impact. But you know what, John? I think you may see it from players that are coming from smaller schools. I think a lot of times in this portal world, it's almost like the old JUCO coach. You know you're going to have to restock. You got to go find players, and it doesn't matter where you find them or what classification. If they can play and they're doing good things, they can step up to this level. Maybe they got shortchanged in the recruiting process. But I look at a lot of guys that are probably coming from places like Shepherd and Limestone that you just can't discount because sometimes they're the ones that are difference makers.
Okay, what about recruits? Any key recruits you think that might see some action this year as true freshmen?
Well, I mean, I think ideally, you know, people were excited about Jimerson, obviously at quarterback, but can he break that 3-person battle going in? You know, I think you look at the running back room and probably, you know, I'm looking at a 2 deep now that obviously will change, but Jaden Beck's a Missouri State transfer. He looks to be the guy that they're going to try to roll with early, although Mackenzie McGill, a little undersized, had a really good year last year. And then there's a player named Caleb Hawkins who isn't really reaching anybody's short list yet, but he's out of Shawnee, Oklahoma. And when I talk again about running backs, I have great respect for what Patrick Cobbs has done. not only during the Seth Luttrell era, but during the Eric Morris era. The running back room has gone through a lot of injuries and a lot of change, but every year there's three guys that are able to
Good.
play. And I think Cobbs is very high on this kid out of Shawnee, Oklahoma, who may remind him of
Yeah.
himself, and if he's anything like that, we'll be in good
All
shape.
right. Well, let's go over the schedule here real quick. I blacked it out so that we could. I'll tell you my prediction in a second. They start out at against Lamar, then they got Western Michigan. Like you said, Washington State. What, in your opinion, what is a best case scenario? What do you see this team doing?
Well, a best case scenario would be 9 or 10 wins. And if you look at the last couple of years and realize how close this team was in a number of games, I don't think that's a huge stretch. Defense has
Sure.
got to be better to get to that level. But you look at the schedule and you end up missing Tulane. You're not going to play Memphis, but you do have both service academies. And you mentioned it back a few minutes ago. That Army game last year was the defense's best effort. It was a 14-3 loss. Army went on a quarter-long drive almost. I think it was
Oh
13
my
and a half
gosh.
minutes. But the Mean Green got the ball inside the red zone, I want to say 4 times, and came away with a grand
Oh
total
my
of 3
gosh.
points. So if you can improve defensively and be ready for that game, I think that's a huge opportunity. And the last time North Texas went to Army, a different coach, a different regime, but got a big win there, at Mikey
Right.
Stadium. So I always tell college football fans, if you can pick one place to go see a football game, go to West Point, man. It's phenomenal, and I can't wait for that
I've
trip.
heard it.
But I think it's a 7-8 win season. I really do, John. And I think this is a team that if it can get back to a bowl game, it knows that it has to break a 6-game bowl losing streak. But I feel like Eric Morris is the guy to get it done. And this is a good schedule with 7 home games, some toughies out there, but a lot of winnable games.
Okay,
in my
well,
mind.
here's my prediction. I mean, you tell me where I'm wrong. I actually have them going 7-5. I do have the Washington State as the first loss, and at Army, which you're excited to go to. You were just telling us about that. And the only other losses, let's see, I've got Southern Florida. I've got a loss at UTSA, which I don't. UTSA, that'll be an interesting one in my opinion. And Navy there. Am I wrong there anywhere, or what do you see?
No, I mean, I think those are always tough matchups, and the Roadrunners have been a tough one for the Mean Green to get past. It's a good rivalry. Our fans care about it; their fans care about it. I think the fact that it's in Denton, I'd like to give the Mean Green the edge there, but I think a lot of people probably would say, based on recent vintage, that's a tough one to win. I think the big difference in this schedule as opposed to last year, the Mean Green took advantage of the games early and got out to a really good start and then had the meat of the schedule to
Right.
finish with. Here, you do have some teams that you would be expected, barring injury, to handle. So I like the way you finish with the 3-game win streak. I think that's very, very
Yeah.
doable. I don't think anything's easy. Winning on the road at any level, anywhere is never
Exactly.
easy. So, they're not gonna take anyone for granted, but I feel like if this team again stays healthy, makes the strides on defense it needs to, and continues to play the kind of offense that Eric Morris has shown us, 7 to 8 wins is not at all
Is that
unlikely.
at 7 or 8 wins? Does that put them in contention to play for a conference championship, or do they need to get up to 9? You think?
Yeah, I think anytime you're in that 8 win zone in our league in the American Athletic, where everybody is going to have some hard games, non-con as well as conference, you've got a chance. And the Mean Green, in recent years, played in a couple Conference USA championship games. It'd be great to get back. Be great to get back to that situation. But I've said this for a long time. It really doesn't matter who you play in a bowl game as
Yep.
long as you win it. And North Texas has played in a bunch of bowl games recently, but hadn't tasted victory. I'd love to see a late December, early January hoisting of some kind of hardware. That'd be awesome for Eric Morris, and I think it would solidify the fact that he could be here a long time and build a program.
Well, I tell you what, Hank, I can't thank you enough for coming on here and educating me. I mean, I follow football. I'm going to follow every Texas team even harder this year now that I've hooked up with Fanatics View. Hopefully, might be trying to get up there to a game. I'm in Richardson, so it's not that far for me. I can make a day out of it and come out there and see y'all. I am credentialed for the Rangers. I do a lot of stuff with the Texas Rangers, but I'm just a just a major fanatic fan of college football. I played high school football and baseball at Duncanville. And so I'm anxious to see it. And I can't thank you enough because honestly, you've hit me with a few. I didn't know they had a new defensive coordinator. I'm excited about that. I'm really pulling for Eric Morris, obviously. I don't like to see anybody on a hot seat. I don't like to see anybody lose a job. I think the best way for a program to stay and do well is to have continuity and have someone that's the leader of that program and going. So I know that if even my 7-5 comes in, he's fine as far as I'm concerned. I think that's building and going good like that. So the first season he was there, I'm saying it must not have been good. If he went 6-7 last year, he must have had a little bit of course, I never fault anybody their first season. You don't know what you're going to get when you get there and who stays and who goes.
It's a different world, and I think it's really it's always been a 24/7 job for these coaches. There really isn't an off season. They take a little time with their families and do things in the summer, certainly, but it's a grind, and I think it's a bigger grind now because you're having to really manage financially how you handle building a team, and that was not the case in the 30 plus years that I was in college athletics. I don't agree with it. I don't like it, but guess what?
It's reality.
That's the way it is. And so if you're going to be any good at it, you've got to pivot. And I think he's the perfect guy. Like I said at the beginning, if you needed someone that was going to be able to pivot, remain positive, not fall on a bunch of excuses, then Eric Morris is the guy. And John, if you come up, we'll make sure that you see Mean Joe Green, your old buddy. He's normally down in the club level. And then you come up to the booth and hang out with David.
Absolutely. That's worth it. Hey, guys, again, we want to thank Hank Dickenson for coming on here with us. For Hank, I'm John Moore. Until next time in our next preview, guys, we'll see you at the Gridiron. Thank you, Hank.